to allow people to fall in love with who they are at a natural state, then your expression blesses all life. Humans are spiritual beings. It's not the other way around. It's not like you have to dig deep, you know? Every one of us has had that mystical experience. The greatest miracle exists within the human body. The ascension is happening inside. It's an inscension. We're not going anywhere. We're activating more of who we are.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. My guest today is somebody who has appeared on the show more than any other guest in the 10-year history of this podcast. In fact, she was my very first guest all the way back on episode 1. Her name is Julie Piatt, aka Srimati. And as many of you already know, she also happens to be my wife, my partner in all things and every definition of the word, and somebody who excels truly across an impressive variety of disciplines. Julie is an entrepreneur. She's the founder and CEO of SriMu, which is her plant-based cheese enterprise and soon-to-be empire. She's also a musician, an artist, a designer, a mom to 4. And most relevant to today's conversation, she is a yogi. She actually has an incredible course on the iFit platform and lifelong devoted pursuer of spiritual wisdom, which she insightfully practices, teaches, and instructs by way of her online spiritual community called Water Tiger. In this discussion, we dive into how to elevate your lived experience, your awareness, your consciousness. We discuss how to inject your entrepreneurship with spirituality, how to gracefully navigate the pitfalls, the vicissitudes, the fraughtness of the family gatherings that are part and parcel of the impending holiday season. And Julie shares some valuable insights from the front lines of growing her Not Cheese brand. And before we get into it, one final note. In a gesture of gratitude for listening and watching, Julie is kindly offering all of you guys a special discount on SriMu. Visit SriMu.com and enter code RRP18 at checkout, and you'll get 18% off. If you are ordering for Thanksgiving, please make sure to place your order on or before November 13th. If you want it delivered in time for Christmas, the order deadline is December 11th. Again, that's SriMu.com, promo code RRP18. Okay, here is me and Julie Piatt doing the thing. Well, here we are again.
Here we are again.
I'm here with no agenda. We're going to spin the spiritual roulette wheel and see what comes up. It's always intriguing and an adventure when I get to sit down with you. We haven't done this in a little while. So I guess this is we do this like twice a year. I can't remember the last time that we did a podcast together, but
I think it's been like 6 months.
Has it been that long?
I think so.
So we're right on cue.
Yeah.
We're heading into the fall season. We have holidays upon us. You always have wisdom about how to effectively navigate the pitfalls and vicissitudes that the holidays always seem to surface for everybody. So I imagine we'll talk a little bit about that. But what is top of mind for you? What do you want to talk about?
First of all, evolution.
You have the floor.
Evolution is at hand, because it was funny because we met in our kitchen this morning with our usual Rich saying that, you know, what are we going to talk about? We need to decide what we're going to talk about.
This is the trope.
This is the way it goes.
This is the dance that we've been doing since day one, 10 years ago, where I'm like, we need to sit down and map it out. We got to decide what the topics are going to be. And you got like almost, you were starting to get activated. You're like, I don't want to do that. Like it's always fine. Like relax.
No. Yeah. No, because I had this great flow of a lot of inspirations and meditations about the energy and how amazing it was and how this was going to be a really meaningful conversation. And then you were like, tell me what it's going to be. And I was like,
I didn't say that.
I was like, don't kill the vibe. Don't kill the vibe. Just let it be.
All right.
No, but evolution is at hand, because you just came and said you're open-ended. And
well, I'm taking
forward.
A cue. You know, you started to talk about it, and I was like, okay, don't. Like, that's fine. I just want to feel like we have
certainty.
That there is some plan.
security.
There's a plan. I'm always thinking about the audience. I want to deliver value for everybody, things that they can think about and implement into their own lives that will be helpful. Not that you are, bereft of that. That's what you do. So, as I said, the floor is yours. Where do you want to begin?
How do you feel, Rich?
I feel nervous. I feel out of control.
So funny.
My impulse to control all aspects of this show is being activated.
But we're never really in control, right?
I know that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's so cool. So I feel really good right now. I think it's a really beautiful moment after, the world and all of us. I'm including the listeners in this thought and in this idea that, we've been through a lot of change. Everyone has been. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, anything. We've all been through transformation. But I do feel like we've come through the most constricted part of it. And I feel like we've sort of emerged through the birth canal and we're still unsettled. Most people that I speak to talk about that they're going through a transformation, that a lot of stuff is up in the air, that they're not quite sure. It's kind of like the new hasn't exactly settled in. But the extreme separation and a lot of the very violent energy that I felt during that entire experience, I think is transforming into an open field of creative possibility, of expanded opportunities. And as I always say, I believe in humanity. I believe in us. I deeply, deeply believe in the human heart. And I think we are on the precipice of new ways of living, of being, of communing, of creating that we have never seen before. And I feel uplifted quite a bit.
You're feeling that in your own life, or you're witnessing that in the people that you're interacting with, or you're just sensing that there has been a vibe shift, an energy shift across the culture that is kind of dissipating some of the tension and intensity of what we've all kind of endured over the last couple of years. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, all of the above. All of the above, because I'm not an island. I'm living in a community and in a society and in a family and in a planetary experiment. So I think it's on all levels. I'm just excited to talk about the new possibilities and the creativity and the expansion rather than all of the problems and the issues and the suffering and all of this.
Yeah. So what are those possibilities?
So those possibilities, they're really endless. I feel like, this is a unique moment in planetary history. It's unlike any other. This is an opening, an expansion of our planetary realm into reclaiming our connection with nature, with divinity, with aspects of ourself that we've been separated from for eons of time. And so I think it's like there is no predicted future. Life is in the moments, and we are all going to co-create this experience together through our desires, our hearts, our dreams, the things that are meaningful to us, and really all for the purpose of evolution. So our life is about evolving.
Well, that's a beautiful thought. I would share that sentiment, that sensibility. Like, I feel really good. I feel in a certain creative flow. I feel a little bit lighter than I have in recent months. And there does seem to feel like there is a bit of a lifting in that kind of heaviness and intensity.
Yeah, and let's start with our own relationship. Let's just go there. Let's just go right into the vortex, which we've, I was on Almost 30 podcast, and Krista interviewed me yesterday. Those girls, Lindsay and Krista, are so amazing. And she thanked me for you and me, your and my service to actually doing this podcast throughout our entire relationship and sitting down and sharing where we're at. And, it's been, a meaningful guide for her and for many others. So while it's a little scary and a little revealing, I think it's meaningful, and it's been definitely meaningful in our lives. I was joking that, we've had our most meaningful conversations on your podcast, and, joking about that, we were sort of trying to figure out how we could have that same level of intimacy not on the podcast.
I've been endeavoring to do that.
Yeah.
We've made some progress there. It would be interesting to go back and listen to some of the very early podcasts that we did together as a gauge of where our relationship was then versus now.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel this is what I'm talking about. I mean, this is the opening that I'm feeling right now. And I have to say that the energy that I feel with you is one of a deepened intimacy that I haven't felt for quite a few years, maybe 2 years, since the pandemic. So to come out and have this level of communication, of intimacy, of friendship, and of understanding that we are two souls here in this experiment on the planet, but also in an experiment of a relationship. And we're evolving through it, and we're changing. We've been together over 20 years. We've raised 4 kids together. We've been through financial collapse and death and rebirth and expansion and success. And, we've been through all different flavors of life. And so, how does that feel to you as a state of love or of partnership?
Well, I'm deeply committed to you, and I love you, profoundly. And it's also been hard, like amidst all of that. Like you can point out those high points and those low points, but we've had our clashes and we've had our challenges in how we communicate and relate to each other as two people who are very, very different. But as you are always quick to point out, there's something about those polarities that creates a certain kind of alchemy that's allowed us to co-create in many beautiful ways. But it also makes it, the degree of difficulty, I think, is higher because we don't always share a worldview that's aligned. And so it's a dance to try to figure out how to relate to each other when some of those things don't always, completely cohere or line up as precisely as it might in a relationship of two people who are very similar.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, definitely. And thank you for that. I love you also profoundly, deeply. And I think the one thing that we've had with each other from day one is a deep commitment. And that commitment has been really solid, So we're able to say, okay, your behavior is alien to me right now, or, off-putting, or, not what I would choose. But somehow there's a bed of this soul connection where it's like, yeah, but it's you, So it's made us able to be in relationship in this extreme, very opposite, experience of life, of how we experience life. And yet, I think it's a wonderful example of practicing unconditional love and of, understanding and holding that your perspective, or I would say my perspective or your perspective or one's perspective, is not the only relevant lens in the room. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a heightened challenge. And I think we're both, creators, we're artists, we have dreams and desires, and we both manifest and build and express ourselves. And so because we both do that, we've been able to give each other also a lot of space. Mm-hmm. Like I was viewing your tent out my bathroom window today.
Yeah.
Your luxury glamping tent that you have now. But then I looked over and I saw that my copper pyramid that I sleep in.
Yeah, what's weirder?
No, but wait, but now it's
explain to people what that is first.
Okay, but wait, but now, okay, yeah. So I sleep in a copper pyramid It's a
People think that my tent is like way off the reservation.
Well, yeah. So let me finish my thought.
All
So
right.
what I was going to say is I was in my room and I was glancing out my window and noticing your tent, your beautiful tent. And then I was looking in my room how my copper pyramid is now draped in this mosquito net, which it's kind of like a tent. And so just this morning as
It's
I was
literally
looking,
a tent.
I was like,
it's an indoor tent.
We both have our own tents.
That's true.
Actually.
So Julie, and this is what you want. I can't remember whether it was your birthday or Christmas. You're like, I want this copper pyramid structure to layer over the top of my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And we as a family procured this item for you. And, I would be lying if I didn't say, like, amongst the boys and I were like, yeah, your mom wants this copper pyramid for her bed.
You guys are always making fun of me.
Spiritual artifact.
Always.
But we went and got it and constructed it. And it's what is it? It's 4 beams that, sit so that
it's like a 3-dimensional pyramid.
It's like this, these poles, that connect at the top to make a pyramid that sits atop your bed structure. And now it's draped with this, beautiful linen mosquito net thing.
It's so dope.
So it is pretty cool, but it's turned your sleeping layer into this kind of, temple of rest.
Yeah.
Temple of repose. Right?
I love that. That's so cool.
And it is a tent. So it is kind of hilarious.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And it kind of sort of, we could be defined by our tents, like the shape of our tents and the qualities, the characteristics. But the funny thing that always makes me laugh, this is one of my favorite stories about you making fun of me. Because like on our Netflix and stuff, like everybody has their like avatars. And then they always make mine like the monkey, like the wise monkey. What kind of monkey is that? That like is like the meditating monkey.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, and it'll say like SriMu of the Galaxy or something like that. Like I'm always being made fun of, which is really great. I mean, it's wonderful. But one of my favorite jokes that you said about me when you gave me the copper pyramid for my birthday, you said, I knew that's what you wanted, darling. And you said, I went to Crate and Barrel and I said, I've come for the Maha Gaia Healer copper sleeping pyramid. and then you go, and they didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then you said, and then I went to Williams-Sonoma and I said, I'm here for the Maha Gaia copper sleeping pyramid, and they didn't have it. So we were laughing quite a lot about that. But you guys know, many of you may know that I've suffered from very severe headaches for 30 years that have been a very challenging part of my life. And so I acquired this pyramid to offer me some energetic stabilization at night because I know that we are multidimensional beings, and at night we travel out of our bodies into other time spaces. And a lot of times I have a hard time getting back in my body or just managing these energies. And so it gives me some support. And in addition, I've programmed it with crystals, and it has geometric, symbols at the top. And, it changes with what I'm working on, but I quite enjoy it and highly recommend it to anyone who's resonating with this. It's a company out of Boulder. I don't even remember who it is, but you can find it. Just Google it online, Copper Pyramid. And it's very easy to get. So it's not a big deal.
But not available at Crate and Barrel.
But not available at Williams-Sonoma or other places you might be shopping for your wife.
So that just sort of punctuates the difference between Julie and I.
So funny.
And it's beautiful, and I celebrate this in you, and I will happily, support these, these endeavors on your behalf. And I think the struggle sometimes comes in when I'm like, trying to connect with you on some of this stuff, but can't quite get there. I can get to the 10-yard line.
That's right.
But, I can't carry the ball across the goal, into the goalpost.
But I mean, isn't it the same with you as well? Like I was just sort of musing about, what would be like a kind of partner that you don't have in me that would be something that you would enjoy. Like, I would never be able to like do an ultra race with you. Like that's probably like never happening, right? And I can't go out on my bike and put my little kit on with my clippity clop shoes. And
you could.
I can't, but I just, it's probably not.
It's funny because
like,
you were in Telluride recently, and at this spa.
Yeah, I was at Reset.
They put you in the Normatec boots, and you sent me a photo of you in the Normatec boots.
Well, that was the first thing I wanted to do.
Was the most hilarious thing, and I was like, I have those.
I knew you were going to be annoyed and also think it was funny. And that's why I asked them to take a picture. I'm like, take a photo right now so I can send this to Rich. But I like the Normatec boots. They were really awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
Yeah. And so, I was invited to Reset Telluride. It's an amazing retreat experience. And Holly and Dylan, the founders, brought me out there, and they made me hike my butt off more than I ever have. And in the high altitude, it was definitely challenging. And just Telluride is one of the most beautiful, beautiful vortexes on Earth. I love it dearly. And everything that they provided was just, top of the line, amazing. So I did have the Normatec boots to help me, and foot massages and soaks and daily massages, which helped.
But I think to your point about the evolution of our relationship, I mean, one thing that you can't deny is that earlier in our phases of creation, it was a much more integrated co-creation. Like, we did these cookbooks together, and we, like, most of what we did was in partnership with each other. And over time, and particularly, in the last couple of years, we've each found like our respective lanes or grooves and what nourishes us most, or what we're, interested in most. And as a result of that, and that's been great. Like, I feel like I'm super fulfilled doing what I'm doing right now. I'm excited about the opportunities that I have and exploring those. And likewise, you've done the same. You've got your plant-based cheese company, SriMu, you have your water tiger community, you have like all of these things that you're doing that are really not separate, but distinct from what I'm doing. And so it hasn't necessarily moved us in different directions. It just means that what we're each doing isn't as enmeshed or as integrated as it once was. And I think there's things that are really healthy about that, but I think it also has meant that without sufficient attention and care, it's easy for us to kind of start to separate, right? Like, we're living separate lives. And there's been a couple of occasions where we've both known, like, hey, look, like we need to get together and communicate a little bit better, because otherwise we're going to wake up and then we're going to be, not strangers to each other, but like not as in intimate partnership as we could or should be or deserve to be, given like how we feel about each other.
Definitely.
And that's been like the biggest kind of thing that we've experienced and that we're kind of navigating currently.
Yeah, definitely. And so the big question, I think, for both of us is, and for everyone listening, because everyone that I've talked to is going through transformation in their relationship in one way or another. The big question is, how do we want to evolve? How do you want to evolve? How do I want to evolve? What are the things that are on the deck, that are on the magic table, that are important, that are essential for your evolution, for your expansion? And the thing that I was really happy about today, or comforted about, when I was meditating on this conversation and where we are, is that I know that you're there for me for that. And I know that I'm there for you for that. So whatever that means, I'm there till the end of this incarnation and maybe beyond. So it's more like, how do we want to evolve? What is going on with our individual expressions that can cross over and connect? How can we dance together, but yet be sovereign, independent individuals? And it just is a huge field of opportunity to expand the way that we view relationship, the way that we view the privilege of this human life, that we're in right now, the sacredness of it, and the ability to actually, I would just say spontaneously affect an elevation of the realm by being authentic and aligned to what is dear to us. So it's not like, oh, it's this big, sort of, mission that, that only we can do. Like, I've been feeling a lot into the power of devotion and then the need for devotion as we move into these new challenges and experiences that we're going to face personally, in relationship, in community, and then planetarily. And the thing is that, Mother Earth is a magnificent, gigantic galactic star that is going through her own transformation, and we are riding on her. So the force, or the one breath, or, the great one, is not counting on any one of us individually to solve all these crises. And I think that devotion to that source, really feeling into that we are instruments of that one breath that comes through each one of us in a very individuated way. That devotion keeps the hardness or the constriction, or you might say ego, or the, this overwhelming, crushing feeling of responsibility that we have to figure it all out, and that we're worthless and we've destroyed the planet, and, which is all true. Not that we're worthless, but, we have participated in the destruction. But I guess what I'm saying is, at this point in time, devotion is a worthy magic trick, a worthy sort of workaround or Jedi move. And also being open to the fact that there will be miraculous appearances of things nobody saw coming.
What is the form or character of devotion for somebody who's listening or watching who doesn't have experience with, exploring that side of being human?
Yeah. So, it's a very relaxed, very natural state of understanding that we all are emanating from one breath, and that there is no life form that is better or worse than any other. Any intellectual ideas any of us have about superiority or importance, all the earth has to do is just shake her back a little bit and we all go flying like ants in the wind. So it's an illusion of control, the illusion that we're orchestrating something. We can't really see the play from where we are in the human embodiment. And so it's been a very beneficial practice for me, and a beneficial gift for me to wake up in the morning and offer my life to that one breath, and then work and play and dance and fail and, do all the things. But then at the end of the day, I just give it all back to her. Mm-hmm. So it's understanding that, we're just part of this great force. And it doesn't have to be, it's not connected to an ism or a lineage or a guru or anything, but it's the core of Water Tiger, which is my spiritual mentorship group, online mentorship, is to allow people to fall in love with who they are at a natural state. And it starts with the personality, with all the things that make you unique. And then after you get through embodying that and really being there for yourself, really loving yourself, then your expression blesses all life, because you understand there is no better or worse. There is no place for judgment of another life form and their choices. The creator is taking care, like at some vast level. Mm-hmm. And then I would say there's a universal accounting that is always in play. So no one ever gets away with anything. If we think that we're fooling somebody or lying to somebody or we're being inauthentic, you're only lying to yourself, because you'll never get away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's accounted for in this lifetime, it might not be accounted for in this timeline. It might be in another timeline. So, we can just relax, and we can develop that devotional view. And that bhava, it's a feeling. It's like a reverence for the privilege of being in a life. And then we can just have a respect for all life, even things we don't agree with, or, it's not our preference. We have preferences, definitely.
Everything that you just said resonates with me. The underlying principles or themes being humility, prayer and meditation, ego death, surrender, all of these things. And the architecture through which I generally process this and practice these ideas is through the sort of 12 steps, right? So, another way of articulating what you just said in a structure that feels like practical from my lived experience is in that kind of rubric, which is all about like, how do you live in a life of integrity and service through humility and relinquishment of your self-will, turning it over, surrendering to the idea that you truly are not in control, and there are very few things that you do have control over. And trying to find a way of walking the earth in service to your fellow man and to humanity, right? And everything you just said is sort of just a different version of that same thing.
It's just the pyramid tent
versus the tent in the backyard.
That's it. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. That's the thing. It's like. Are we really that different? At a core level. Actually, at the ultimate level, we're not different at all. We're the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same one life that's individuated into two forms.
Right, but you have to override the default operating system of looping in your mind and the delusion that you're in control, or that somehow you will be a permanent fixture here on planet Earth. Like all these kind of notions that comprise living in the modern industrialized world that are illusory, right? Like we're only here for a short period of time. We're here to evolve, as you mentioned. We're here to, serve the world in a positive way to the extent that we, can leverage whatever talents we've been given and work ethic, et cetera, to leave an imprint on the people that we love and perhaps, a few other people beyond that. And it's just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a moment. And so much of what we concern ourselves with and worry about and obsess over is truly without meaning, right? And yet we allow it to monopolize so much of our energy and time. And it's been, kind of a beautiful experience doing this podcast, because each person that I get to sit down with reminds me of, some piece of that puzzle or equation that helps to ground me. Like having Mike Fremont on, the 100-year-old guy who's just like, he's been alive for 100 years, and his message and his wisdom is serving as like, this thing that I keep returning to and thinking about, which is just, be of service to other people. Like that's part of what has kept him young. Like pursue the things that you, through which you find joy, and try to give back what you learn along the way.
Yeah.
And yet
beautiful.
We overcomplicate it, and we suffer, and we make ourselves miserable as a result of the intellectualization or over-intellectualization of so much. And in so doing, we opt out or short-circuit ourselves from participating in awe and wonder and the miraculousness nature of what it is to truly be alive. Like Pete Holmes talks about this all the time, comedian I've had on the podcast. Like if you're just walking around like wearing your Dockers and like going to Starbucks and driving in your car, like you're blind to the fact that we're on this spinning ball out in space with galaxies around us and all this insanity. Like all of it is totally insane, right? And yet we have to be reminded of just how we inure ourselves to this. We normalize something that is just impossible for us to comprehend in order to just get through the day. But in truth, most of what we experience every day is truly miraculous and completely overflowing with awe and wonder if we choose to notice.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of the things that that excite me or that I like to share about are about, are about opening those boundaries, pushing out what you think is possible, what you think, so when I talk about we are multidimensional beings having a simultaneous experience.
Right.
So like, you're just like, what? You're totally not thinking that we're on a spinning ball in the middle of space. You're just thinking like, why won't she put her Dockers on and go to Starbucks?
Right.
So the thing is,
I can watch Interstellar and I'm like, oh yeah, multi-dimensions.
Right, exactly.
Time is bending.
Right. So, I think that, as all of us travel on roads of discovery, we find out the more we know and the more we mature, we find out the more we don't know, right? When you're young and you're 20 or even when you're, 15, you think you know everything. You think you've figured it all out. So, we really don't understand that much about the play on planet Earth, about what's happened. We're finding out now, many of the histories that we've been taught, that didn't really go down that way. And, I can go all down that rabbit hole, which I won't do on this podcast. But one of the things, actually, I brought one of my friends from Domenher, this spiritual community in northern Italy. Her name is Esperide Ananas Ametista. And she is one of the original Domenherian members. She's been there, I think, over 35 years, and she's highly degreed. You would be very impressed with her degrees. I can't.
I like to be impressed by degrees.
Yeah, she has lots of like doctorates and shit like that you care about. But she's really cool. And she wrote this book. Actually, this is a good time to shout it out. It's 33 Lives from the Book of Time. And in this story, Domenher has a process that's in their university, and you can do it online now thanks to COVID, because it opened up many, many things that weren't possible before. But they have a group of individuals who have been researching past lives, but I would call them simultaneous lives. They're not really past lives. And they take photos of you, 2 photos of you, a photo that's 2 months old, a photo that's 5 years old. And this group of individuals go into the temples, which are these sacred chambers and really activated spiritual portals. And they retrieve the 5 lifetimes that are the most beneficial to what you are experimenting with in this lifetime, what you are creating in this lifetime. And so I've done a couple of those with them already, and they've been deeply meaningful and resonant to me. Like, it's like you reclaim parts of yourself that feel like a lost lover. Like one of mine is an Argentinian male in the 18th century who is a horseman, who wears a hat and a poncho. And you guys see that I wear a hat and a poncho all the time. And it's never felt like an outfit to me. It just feels natural to me. And so I understand these things more. Another one that I retrieved was as a priestess of the fire in an unidentified time period in Greece. So as you know, I'm always with the fire. So this gave me an expansion of something that I'm already connected to. In this book, Esperide actually writes 33 stories of different human existences. And they're very vast and very colorful, very multicultural, some even planetarily, in other planetary realms. But they're short stories, like 3 or 4 pages, that give you a little summary of a human life or a life in another place, and what would be the characteristics of that life, and what would that person have experienced. And by reading it, it starts to open your awareness to, I'm more than just this personality living in this time space. Like, and you'll know, it'll be things that are resonant to you. Like you've always had this affinity to Italy, or you've always been connected to a certain lineage or mountain climbing or whatever it is. So anyway, it's my favorite book right now that I'm recommending to allow that boundary to keep pushing out, just as a magical thought. How would you feel inside your being in your daily life as you go through your routine or whatever you do in your life, if you knew there were other realities that were happening simultaneous? And how does that open your creativity, even your resilience, your power, your resolve, and your capacity to live if you know, or if you could grab an inkling of some of that other scenario?
I'm trying to understand that. And what comes up for me is, if there are simultaneous timelines in which I'm living a life right now beyond my perception, to me it feels like, well, then what does it matter? Because I'm having these experiences in these other lives. Like doesn't that undermine or denigrate like the preciousness of the experience that I'm having here right now?
Not from my perspective.
If I'm off doing a podcast with somebody else right now in some other dimension.
That's an interesting perspective. You really feel a constriction from that?
I don't know. Like I'm trying to process it.
That's interesting. See, for me, it's just like, oh, wow, look at the vastness. Look at the complexity of evolution. Look at how vast we are. But
I think like my ego says, no, I'm the only one and I'm right here right now. Like I can't, my ego is fighting against the idea that there are different versions of me that are having their own experiences that are outside the control of my ego.
You just want to be the only one.
Yeah. Right.
That's so funny. I don't.
Really?
Not at all. Not at all. No. And there's an open eye meditation that we do in Water Tiger and that I've done on retreats where you're sitting open eye in a mirror and you're gazing at your third eye and you endeavor to keep your eyes open, but your eyes burn and then you'll have to shut them and open them again. And this is a very transformative practice for anybody who has interest or wants to go deep. But I actually see these identities appear. They come in and out, and many people see. It's not like wow. It's just it happens. So it's very relieving to me to understand that there's a lot more going on. That it's not just about this incarnation, this life.
Right. I get that part. That part I'm down with.
Yeah.
Like there's a lightness that comes with just embracing our innate lack of understanding and knowing. We have this sense that we pretty much have everything figured out. There's a couple things we're still trying to solve. We got to get to Mars or, whatever it is. But for the most part, science has pretty much, come up with an equation for most things that used to confuse us. And that's really the lie, right? Because the truth is we really know almost nothing. But in order to feel secure and grounded, we have to convince ourselves that we have a grip on what's happening. Like I'm holding onto this table and this is real.
Which is complete illusion. So, it's just, there's so much mystery and this brings me to the subject of, illness and COVID and what we've gone through with the virus and all this stuff. And, it has been brought forth in a perspective from Falco, the founder of Dom and Her, many years ago, that the Grail so the Grail is the undefinable, it cannot be defined, controlled, mutated, manipulated. It's that energy that we have sought after for eons of time, and it's normally represented in the form of the chalice. But what perspective was brought forth in 2008 was that form was changing and it was going to appear in the form of illness when it contacts this realm. And so the wonderful transformational opportunity of COVID, of virus, just like you talk about any adversity, going through a challenge, and in a song that I'm writing that's on my album, the lyric is about changing poison into wine. So, I mean, that's the opportunity as alchemists, as creative beings, as architects of our own existence, is that we can take something that is at its core maybe an anti-life force, and we can interact with it, and it can transform into wine, into the greatest thing that ever contacted you. It's interesting, the level of transformation that's going on. I have a friend of mine who got COVID, who had a very high fever, who went into the hospital. She flatlined. And this is a very grounded individual. She's the life of the party, but she was not really wanting to embrace her spirituality so much, although she comes from a family that's very connected with spirituality. And she had an NDE, and she was going to the light and felt amazing and completely free. And then her loved ones called her back, and she came back in her body, and she called me and she's like, I don't feel the same. And I went and spent time with her, and she's not the same, meaning in a beautiful way. Like, she gained this, I want to say, wisdom, a presence, an embodiment. She's still her with all of her characteristics and everything that I love about her, but there's more of her. And it's this feeling that I think many of us and many people that I spoke to have emerged from this 2 years and this experience more present, more powerful. And it was scary for all of us. And some of us took transition. So we had our expansion come through dropping the body and moving beyond this realm. But this is what I'm talking to you about, of the profound nature of this moment. It's not like any other time. It's like we can feel it. It can be felt. So, it's a magical, mystical time if we're open to receive the signs from nature, appearances of animals, appearances of messages. And in my experience, teaching on retreat and mentoring in spiritual matters, humans are spiritual beings. It's not the other way around. It's not like you have to dig deep, Every one of us has had that mystical experience in some way, in some form. And I think it's a profound, magical opportunity. And any of us that are in a body right now, it is like the best time of our lives. And probably why we incarnated is for this time right now.
To do what?
Whatever is in your heart. So it doesn't matter if you are a gardener. You don't have to do something, you don't have to affect lots of people. It's just what's authentic to you. What is your authentic life print? And what is that? What is your way of expressing in the world that thing that only you can do in the entire omniverse?
Mm-hmm. I think as we emerge out of this period, a lot of people have been engaged in a deep self-reflection about how they've spent their time and how they want to spend their time going forward, right? It was this, moment of forced repose where, because everyone was home all of a sudden and we were kind of compelled to look in the mirror in a way that we generally don't because we're busy. I think a lot of people took stock of why have I been, in this job or doing this thing? And I've seen a lot of people make huge changes in their lives. But now as the world has started to open back up, it's recession, inflation, political division. There's a lot of noise out there that is fear-inducing. And there's good reason for that. And, chances are we are going into some kind of economic challenges at the moment that I think promotes a restriction of whatever sense of expansion might be percolating up in people. So maybe it would be good to talk a little bit about how to navigate that. And if you are feeling that sense of expansion or change or an impulse to more deeply explore what might be authentic to you and how to nurture that and bring it to life and be more fully expressed and more authentic in how you're pursuing your life, like what are some strategies or practices or tools that you could impart to that person?
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, the heart will never fail you. And that's been my experience. So it doesn't mean that you're going to have the trajectory that you think that you're going to have in your mind or in, whatever you thought your life was going to be. But I would say that this podcast is living proof, and our journey, the heart will not leave you. It will not fail you.
This is a manifestation of a heart-centered impulse. Like I didn't whiteboard like, oh, I'm going to have this podcast and it's going to be this thing. There's nothing about this that was predictable in any way, shape, or form. It was the result of letting go more than self-will. Like it was like, well, what are the possibilities? Like, and trying different things and not holding on to anything too tightly and really just following my curiosity and what inspired me and more deeply connecting with my intuition and my sense of who I wanted to be in the world in a very non-defined kind of ephemeral way, but learning to tune into that and to listen to that and pay attention to that and take action on, those impulses is what created this. It's not because I sat down and had a goal and said, this is what I'm doing. It was the antithesis of all of that.
Yes, it was all of that.
And you're the one who's always reminding me of that when I start to get, too, up in my head about stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was an entire spiritual ritual that actually activated this entire timeline. And it was based on no sensibility whatsoever, except my unwavering, extreme faith that our heart would not let us down. And I knew that I had to support you to live and experience your heart's deepest desires. And so we were making decisions that made no intellectual sense whatsoever. Everybody knows the story, with 4 kids and financial collapse. And, I had, people pulling me aside, telling me they were sorry that I was so mistreated by you, like just a whole lot of stuff. But, we did a lot of ritual. I did a lot of ritual. I did a lot of sessions. I did a lot of fires. I did a lot of ceremony. I was doing all this stuff that you find so strange all that time. But because we were so raw and we were so stripped bare, you were able to receive it. And then what happens when things click in and then it's working in a modern society way, you have amnesia. Yeah, suddenly you're like, whoa, you're a weirdo, or that's way out there. I can't get with that. I'm just like, dude, like we've been doing this from day one. I mean, and it at your core because you were at our wedding. You were the other party in our wedding that was full of like gospel singers and channelers and African wedding singers and a snake wrangler. And, it was like the spiritual gospel concert of the decade for sure. Yeah. So the heart doesn't lie. Now, serving the heart doesn't mean that you get to have health insurance. Serving the heart doesn't mean that you get to have your 401k and everything lined up the way that you want it to. And, Rich and I, when we were on our knees and we just hadn't gotten the relief and things hadn't broken through, even though we had been repeatedly serving our hearts and going through this experience, I didn't have a bank account for 4 years. There was like some major shit that happened. Like if I did a job for somebody,
it was total insanity.
I'd have to ask somebody. I just got to be really good at communicating. I'd just be like, hey, I'm going to need to be paid in cash. And they were just like, there would be a moment and I would just sort of joke through it, and then they would be like, oh, okay, I gotcha. Now I get it. But so what I'm saying is we are going through a planetary transformation, and that means that a lot of these systems that have not been serving our hearts, we'll just say our hearts, are going to transform, and they need to transform. We need to stop starving our humanity on the planet. We need to stop destroying our planet. Like, there's many, many things. I'm not going to get into all of them, but the point is that at this point, if you were going to make a list of all the crises, it's overwhelming. Like, how are you going to mastermind the resolution of all of these issues of war, of pedophilia, of, misogyny against women, of murder, of, everything that we're dealing with, planetary destruction? I mean, it's overwhelming. So again, the key is inside the heart, and it's in each one of us. Because if we can activate what that natural expression is, that is so beautiful, so divine, so profound, and it might not be seen by anyone. It's not about being famous or having like a big reach. It's about doing what is authentic and reminding ourselves that art, creating art and music and dance with sacred intention is the greatest gift we can give humanity. And instead, we've been reversed to think that you can only be an artist if you're in a certain circle, or if your art sells for a certain amount of money, or if you're, one of the greats. That's not true, because art is a language and a communication, and poetry and music that is invisible to anti-life forces. It actually gets through. It makes a connection. So the biggest thing we have to do is live in resonance with our heart. And it comes back to that question, how do you want to evolve? And what are you hiding? What are we still hiding from ourselves? And if we can refine that through many different ways, I will always go back to yoga. Oh, bless the yogis of our civilization, of many, many eons of time. I mean, the yoga practices literally are shelter from the storm. They are breathing practices. Many people are doing them in a modern way, and they have breathing workshops. Those are all yogi techniques. So yoga practice, yoga breathing, this is what cultivates the presence, the awareness of the one that is breathing us. And in the end, we only have our consciousness. You have your consciousness. No one can ever take that from you. And we aren't in control of a lot of the other things that happen. So it's like, my prayer is for the people in Pakistan in these extreme floods, that when they transition, that the suffering is short, so short, that their creator, that their loved ones, that their guides are there to catch them, and that they've transitioned. I don't want anyone to suffer. That is not, it's not even reconcilable, like how we would choose these human lives to come in here to face so much of what we face. And, we're in a very privileged, life, of course. But, life will visit you wherever you are. If you have money, it will come in the form of disease. It'll come in the form of divorce. It will come to remind you who you are. And if you're in a slumber and you're, in the dockers, I guess. Mm-hmm. Not that we have anything against dockers.
Dockers are
but
fine.
We don't wear dockers. No. So, if you're in that illusion, life will visit you. No one is immune. You didn't take a body to be immune and go, everything's great, super duper. It's fantastic forever.
Right. I mean, everybody gets their wake-up call in one form or another. And the question then becomes, are you present enough to heed that wake-up call when you're visited with it, right? And if you choose to continue to ignore those gentle knocks and protect that thing that you're hiding from yourself or from other people, the knock just starts to get a little bit louder. It'll come again, and it will persist until it knocks you on your ass and you have no other option other than to reckon with it. And so my sense is that the more present and aware that you can be, through these practices, breath work, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, physical exercise, all of these things that we talk about here to, pursue self-care, then the better condition you're in to heed that call when it's knocking gently. You can, I think, prevent that heavy call by heeding it early on. It's just that we're sort of wired to only pay attention when we're in, I'm speaking for myself, when I'm in so much pain that I can't see any other avenue. There is no trapdoor exit, and I'm compelled to confront the thing that I've been hiding from or really don't want to reckon with.
Yeah, definitely. And many people. And we have to say that it also could just come in the form of a kiss. You could just have a kiss and get it all as well. So it doesn't always have to come in that way. I think this is the opportunity, and we're all creating it together. And I had a cooking video on SriMu recently where I was talking about community as the new currency. It's really about your community. That is where the wealth is, the richness is. And the rest of it, who knows? We're going to have to walk through it. I ran into a friend of mine recently and he said, Julie, we only have 2 years left before we run out of water. And I was like, dude, we got to Jedi this. You got to change your perspective. We're going to have to quantum this. There's going to have to be a miraculous appearance. There has to be an evolution, in some way. And it's not all riding on, that one fact, and I don't know where he got that fact, but the point is yes, we need to become conscious of what we're doing, both individually and as a society. And at this point of this sort of level of climactic crisis in every area, the heart will never fail you. And that may mean that, I die in some scenario, cancel that because I'm not planning on it. But, it's not about hanging on to any existence, but it's about, being devoted and understanding that you are an eternal life form, and that the play is much bigger than what we see with our science. There's a lot more going on.
With that, I think we should take a quick break and think about that, ponder it, and we'll be back with some recipes that you're going to share with us. Yes.
Yay.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Sorry to interrupt the flow. We'll be right back with more awesome, but I want to snag a moment to talk to you about the importance of nutrition. The thing is, most people I know actually already know how to eat better and aspire to incorporate more whole plants, more fruits, vegetables, seeds, beans, and legumes into their daily routine. Sadly, however, without the kitchen tools and support, very few end up sticking with it. So, because adopting a plant-based diet transformed my life so profoundly, and because I want everybody to experience some version of what I've experienced, we decided to tackle and solve this very common problem. The solution we've devised, I'm proud to say, is the Plant Power Meal Planner, our affordable, all-in-one digital platform that sets you up for nutrition excellence by providing access to thousands of highly customizable, super delicious, and easy to prepare plant-based recipes. Everything integrates with automatic grocery delivery, and you get access to our amazing team of nutrition coaches 7 days a week and many other features. To learn more and to sign up, visit meals.richroll.com. And right now, for a limited time, we're offering $10 off an annual membership when you use the promo code RRHealth at checkout. This is life-changing stuff, people, for just $1.70 a week, literally the price of a cup of coffee. Again, that's meals.richroll.com, promo code RRHealth for $10 off an annual membership. All right, let's get back to the show. And here we are. We've got this unbelievable layout of SriMu infused delicacies. Walk us through what we're looking at right now.
SriMu on the plate. Yeah.
I know.
So one of the things that is so extraordinary about SriMu is it really fits that gap when you don't know what to eat. Because it's crafted with this amazing flavor and this high intention and energy, and it's just really a beautiful, beautiful food. It elevates whatever else you're creating in your kitchen. So I just wanted to present for the holidays some recipes that we have on our site. And this is SriMu on the plate. So actually taking SriMu from the cheese board and incorporating it into recipes that you love. One of our favorites is a mushroom risotto. And it's extremely easy to make. You can make the risotto with even no oil. And at the very end, you finish it by adding in some of our elder flavor or our Bertie flavor. And it just really elevates the risotto into a 5-star plate.
So we should point out for anybody who's brand new, or maybe this is the first time.
What is SriMu?
Yeah, like maybe explain
Yeah.
what it is. SriMu is your not cheese brand. It's your plant-based artisanal wheels of cheese. It's a direct-to-consumer model based on a subscription box plan that you have. And I'll let you describe it, but from my perspective, you are somebody who's been in the kitchen laboratory for 8 years at this point, trying to figure out how to craft the next level of plant-based cheese. My experience with vegan cheeses is that none of them are really good. Some of them are tolerable. They all kind of taste the same. Most of them have a lot of preservatives and different types of ingredients in them that don't do well with my digestion or my energy levels. You have elevated this art form to a whole new place because what you've created really are like these incredibly tasty and distinctive flavors of artisanal cheeses. Think fine European cheeses that you would have with your fine wine, and you get a sense of what this is, but all dairy-free. And all of these flavors do taste different from the other ones. That's the other thing with a lot of plant-based cheeses. Like, no matter what flavor it says on the label, it all kind of tastes pretty much the same. That is not the case here. So I just wanted to celebrate what you've accomplished and achieved, because I think you're pushing the outer envelope of what's possible in this world. And this creation, which goes back to what we were talking about, this heart-centered, kind of expression, that's truly what this is. And it's a really beautiful offering. And it's lovely to see all of this out here today. So again, back to the risotto or whatever it is that you want to say about SriMu before we get into the specific recipes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So it is pure. It is crafted with intention. We actually don't touch the cheese until we've done a meditation breathing practice. And it really is just whole food ingredients. So there's no fillers. There's no gooey, creepy, like, I don't know what I'm eating sort of sensation. And I call it the next evolution of cheese because it rivals dairy cheese. So I didn't create something that is asking you to give up your love of cheese. I simply made it better. And I'm very, very happy to say after, hundreds, nearing thousands of customer reviews, it's just a pretty unanimous review of the product.
Yeah.
So they're not all wheels. We have a new offering called Awe and Wonder, which are jars. One is smoked almond cheddar, which is called Bonfire, and that is an amazing spread on toasties. You can put it in tacos. You can make meatless meatballs and pasta. And it has this just really delicious, satisfying flavor to it. And it's a great thing when you don't know what to eat. I know when I became plant-based, the thing that I used to eat when I didn't know what to eat was usually eggs, some sort of scrambled egg, some sort of, egg thing. And SriMu is so packed with protein. It's like high density power food that's made with pure ingredients and sacred intention. And it really, really, we say it floats through your digestive tract like a prayer. So I'm highly sensitive to nuts. If I eat a handful of nuts, I'm going to have a stomach ache immediately. I have never had any digestive issues with SriMu. I never feel like I've eaten too much. It literally, your body can really, really digest it and get the nutrients that you need from it while providing your taste buds with a beautiful experience of just delicious food.
If I may interject quickly,
please.
I think another kind of beautiful aspect of this is that, yes, this is plant-based cheese. We're plant-based people. This is an offering for the plant-based community, but you don't have to be plant-based. You can be lactose intolerant or on a low-carb diet or even on a keto diet. Like, this kind of fires on all cylinders for everybody. And I think no matter what diet you're on, most healthy diets recommend avoiding dairy or ditching dairy altogether. And there are a lot of people that really struggle with that because dairy is in almost everything that we eat. And there's something about dairy and cheese specifically that makes it very hard to quit, right? Like, I know when I was going plant-based, removing dairy from my diet was much more difficult than ditching the meat. Like, I just crave that cheese. And I know part of your creation is inspired by that notion of, like, so many people love their cheese. If I can figure out a way to serve that in a healthier way, that would be, a beautiful offering. And you've done that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for that. I say SriMu is universal. So it's plant-based, it's paleo, it's dairy-free, gluten-free. And it's raw, actually, because it's dehydrated at like 92 degrees. So it's an amazing product. We are arms open wide, inviting anyone in to experience SriMu. It's largely a subscription product offering, and we have many, many different varieties now. We have most exciting, we have an Eternal box that has our 3 new 4-ounce wheel flavors, which are Everything, which is reminiscent of an everything bagel, Fire, which is reminiscent of pepper jack, and Imagine, which is this beautiful blue color that you see on the top there that is made with butterfly pea powder. So this box is under $50, so it's $48. But we have many, many other varieties. And also, don't miss out on the fresh mozzarella Cloud9, which is in our On Wonder box. You can pair it with the Bonfire, the smoked almond cheddar, or you can specify 2 mozzarellas or 2 smoked almond cheddars. So there's more customization now. In a couple of the boxes, you can vary the wheels a bit. But we have 10 flavors to choose from. And here we have in this salad is a blue cheese dressing that you can make with the Spire flavor. You can also just garnish it with the wedges. And then again, the risotto has the birdie or elder in it. And you just make risotto, we have the recipe on the website, but in the same manner that you would make it. And then at the end, you just fold in the SriMu, and it literally takes it to a 5-star dish.
Right. You can make like almost an Alfredo sauce.
You can, that's right.
As well.
Yeah, the fettuccine Alfredo is insane as well with any kind of pasta that you like. And then again, just the toasties. I mean, it's so satiating. And so many times I come home and I'm not sure what to eat. And, I'll make sort of like an open baguette or, some version of a toasty with really any of the flavors. The gold flavor on the cheese board is called Gold Alchemy. And it's one of this beautiful synergy of elements which create something that are more than the sum of the ingredients. So it really sort of harkens to a ham, cheese, and mustard sandwich. So it's very nourishing, nurturing, it's nostalgic, and it's been an amazing experience so far. And not only are we devoted to our community of subscribers, community is the most important thing to us. So we're very limited in wholesale right now. We're working out some meal planning partnerships that I'm not going to speak about right now, but I can in the future. And really building a community within SriMu. So one of the amazing things that are on the horizon is we're moving our production to the vertical community of Crosstown Concourse in Memphis, Tennessee. I spoke about it on a previous podcast.
Yeah, we talked about that the last time.
Yeah, but it's an extraordinary opportunity to actually create community, be a part of a community. And for us, it's about really developing meaningful relationships. So this is much more than a product in a box. It is an offering, a devotional offering for life, knowing that each individual has beauty within them to express and share. And we just want to be a part of all of it.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's cool that you have all of these recipes. So if you go to SriMu.com, you can find all these recipes. Also, if you're a member or a subscriber to our Plant Power Meal Planner, there's tons of recipes that are SriMu infused there as well. And for people that are looking for more diversity in their plant-based recipe, Rolodex, you should check out the meal planner because I think there's thousands of recipes that you can customize based upon your preferences.
Definitely. And also on the meal planner, there's cheese recipes if you live international and you can't get SriMu.
Right, because that's the big thing.
Right.
Shipping.
Right, exactly.
As soon as we start talking about this, why don't you ship here? Why don't you ship there?
Well, I know, and we're working on it.
Shipping is like the whole game. It's so hard to solve that puzzle.
But it's I'm still working on Europe expansion, so I haven't forgotten, but we're moving there. But also, just so you guys know, I wrote a cookbook called This Cheese is Nuts, which is, Matthew Kenny called it the most developed resource on plant-based cheese. So I've already created, 70 recipes for you guys in there if you want to try to make cheese on your own.
You can create your version of SriMu.
Of course, it's not.
People, why can't I get it? Well, get the book and you can make it yourself.
It's not exactly
people are like,
SriMu.
but I don't want to make it myself. Can't you just make it and I'll buy it? Which is why this company exists, right?
Yeah.
So
we're growing.
It's a vegan chicken and the egg kind of situation.
Yeah, but we're growing and we're expanding, and we have intention to go far and wide. So I just want to mention that for your listeners, we're going to give you a code, of course. We usually we have sold out the last 2 years in Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we do about 60% of our business in the last 3 months of the year. So get your orders in early. If you're going to order for Thanksgiving, you have to order by November 13th because this is a perishable product and we ship it, right before. And then for December, if you order, you got to order by December 11th, I think, if you want it in time for that Christmas date.
So what's the code?
The code is going to be RRP 18. And that gives you 18% off of any subscription, any box, anything you want.
So SRIMU.com and then /RRP18, or you enter the code.
You just enter the code at checkout, RRP18.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So on the subject of food, holidays, there's two things that I want to talk to you about. One is preparing ourselves for the holidays. Holidays are upon us. This episode's going to go up in mid-October. People are starting to think about that phase of the year where we're going to be engaging with relatives and loved ones, and things become social as the days become longer, and the perilous nature of time shared with people we care about, and buttons getting pushed and things going sideways, and all the kind of treachery that is potential during this time of year. And then second to that, the idea of, and we kind of talked about it before the break, this idea of sacred commerce or spirituality in business. Like, you're an entrepreneur, you're also this spiritual being. How do you, as a leader and as a builder, infuse this commercial enterprise with the sensibility and the energy that is so precious to you and is part and parcel of like who you are? And what can we learn about how to participate in the capitalist economy, but do it from perhaps a higher perspective as leaders, as consumers, as employees, et cetera.
Which one should I
I
start
don't know.
with?
What do you want to start with?
I'll start with the sacred commerce. Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So in my experience, it all comes down to alignment. So again, going back to the awareness that each of us were created in a very specific way for a specific, maybe, way of expressing ourselves. And so through the yoga and meditation and, self-discovery and seeking, and, they could say about me, you left no rock unturned. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've had an entrepreneurial view. I was not as successful as I wanted to be early in my years. And I thought I was going to have realized everything by the time I was 30. And that's been a very difficult sort of game of having to have patience and understanding that I see a much bigger picture, but oftentimes the current timeline doesn't fold into what that picture is, what my personality is considering. But for me, it was all a very organic process. And going back to, our choice to serve our hearts, it was you who brought food sort of foremost into the picture because, I was raised on game meat in Alaska. I loved my mom, but she was just not a good cook at all. Like food was not prepared well in our house growing up. And I grew up in Alaska. There were hardly any vegetables, in the long winters.
Except in the summers, you would get these gigantic versions of what we're used to, right?
Yeah, they have these like super uber gigantic carrots and things in the summer because the sun never sets. So it's just amplifying this kind of crazy Alice in Wonderland vegetable crop. But that basically is food was not a thing for me. I've always been a thin person, so I never sort of dieted for weight. And then later in my years, I got to have an experience of healing myself, of a cyst in my neck through Ayurveda. I decided not to have surgery and to heal it myself. And I was successful in that after a 2-year process. But really, I started cooking to feed you because I wanted to love you, because I wanted to support you in your racing and in Ultraman. And it was you who went vegan. I was Ayurvedic. So I was eating predominantly plant-based, but also some milk and some ghee, in medicinal ways. And that was very supportive to my body and is a science and a lineage that I incorporate into my life today a lot. But I started for you. I was like, he's into it. He's really trying to create something. So I started just making recipes, and it was very organic because it wasn't, it was just from that center point of I could really help him. I could really help him. I could really love him. And I could support him in realizing one of your dreams. And so every time you came back from training, there was this huge spread. So likewise, as we continued down the journey, and then I would come to create almost, 400 plant-based recipes and publish 3 cookbooks that were all my recipes. And then I had just realized that what I was creating with this plant-based cheese was extraordinary. It far surpassed what I thought was possible. And I started to get very interested in it and very intrigued by it. And when my European friends started freaking out over the product, I started to realize that I had really hit on something. And if I am good at anything, I'm good at simplifying things. So I was never one that felt like I had to go to a school or learn a technique to be able to do something. I approach it through a very organic experience of interacting with whatever the medium is. And
well, it's sort of a beginner's mind approach. Like you're not bogged down by some tradition created by French laundry. Like you can go into it without all of that and innovate, from a fresh perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And, everything for me, I like to experience life as art. So it's just another form of art. I'm using the medium of food and to express. But I had been a fashion designer earlier in my life. In 1996, I closed a garment company that I'd had for, 6 years. And I just worked myself until my fingers bled and, gave birth to the two boys during that time. And it was really a heartbreak when I had to close that company because of what I had put into it. And so I had to get over that sort of PTSD that I had from, wanting to be an entrepreneur and also being in fashion and seeing, the level of waste and just, the way that industry and the way that it's created just sort of rapes and pillages everything that it touches. So I thought long and hard about it. I took my time. But when I created it from a very authentic place. So it means I didn't go out and look at other cheese brands and see what they were doing. I don't consider what others are doing. I try to go in as much as I can. And because of that, I'm sitting here with a branding that is extremely unique, a name that is very unique. So SriMu is divine cow, right? It's Sri Mu. I like MU better than MOO. And it's also a little nod to my spiritual name, Srimati, which I'm Srimati on Instagram and in the music that I create. So SriMu, I figured no one else would have that name.
Definitely not.
No one else would have that name.
A lot of competition for
not a lot of competition for SriMu.
The company.
But again,
umbrella.
this is the authenticity, right? That we each have something that is within us. And I named it Devotional Offerings for Life. And if you look at O'Hara's branding that he created for the brand, the braiding, which creates a modern hieroglyph, says Devotional Offerings for Life. After that, I had a Vedic chart reading. I've had many, but I had never touched on this point before. And my astrologer pointed out that my birth chart, the symbol of my natal birth chart in Vedic terms, is connected to a cow's udder and a devotional flower. Those two things. So I had named it Devotional Offering for Life, not even understanding in my personality just how profound that is for me. So then fast forward, due to the blessings of the people that listen to this podcast and that a lot of people had eaten my cheese at events and on retreats and had seen it on Instagram. And when I announced the launch, I was blessed enough to receive, over 400 orders before I had even gotten the factory and started it. So it's because of you guys that you helped launch me into the space. But anyway, did so very successfully, and just the product is stable, it's consistent, it's delicious. It's like, and because of the podcast, because we had been sharing for so many years, my team found me through the podcast. So, in the true sense of the word, SriMu is a mission. It is a mission of global awakening, and the people that work with me are aligned with me at that level. So it's different than any other business or company that I've been involved in because they know me and they know that I mean it and they share this alignment with me in different ways. So the big thing though for me was when I went to raise money, I spent quite a bit of time, over a year exploring plant-based venture, structures and different opportunities with partners and thinking again, always that someone else knows how to do it better than you do.
Mm-hmm.
When we're young in business or when we're going, I think a part of us really wants that partner that is that magician that's figured it all out.
Right. Oh, that person will validate it. That person can put their stamp of approval on it. They know how to do this. I need that person to guide me. And yeah, we all need guidance. I think the thing is look, this is all set against the backdrop of an explosion in interest in plant-based foods and meat and dairy analogs. And with that, there's a whole kind of sub-economy around financing these startup ventures where founders are developing these products of which you are one, right? So it puts you in this position where suddenly you're on the receiving end of a lot of attention from people who want to give you money. And then it becomes a challenge of discernment, because it's not about just raising money. It's like, who are the people that I'm aligning with? Are they in alignment with me in terms of the mission? What is the cost of this money what is the cost that I'm incurring by accepting outside investment? And who are the people that, I can partner with who can be those guideposts or those mentor personalities but not at the cost of, sort of the quick path towards an exit in that traditional sense of like how these startup, how this kind of startup thing works for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I was excited because I'm always the one that makes the thing that's not scalable. That's completely ridiculous. Like, oh, that's beautiful, but that makes no sense. So, in my fashion company, I was designing 36-piece jackets, with 36 pattern pieces and, Austrian crystal buttons. And, it was very complicated and very hard to scale and very, just very, very intense. And so finally I'm in the space. And also, I have an intention to build a very profoundly expansive company. Like I'm going all the way. Like I'm not, here to do farmers markets and just, impress my friends. Like this is truly a global mission of awakening through each individual that experiences the product and feels themselves and remembers who they are and finds a vibration that supports them in expanding, as well as, the ultimate sort of why of SriMu, which is to support the indigenous of the planet and fund an expansion in Damanhur of their already existing temples, which is an indigenous sort of museum that is on the books or on the deck. So, but getting back to, I was taking these different meetings with different venture people and different people in the space. And I heard this, I didn't hear it, it wasn't a voice, but I got this telepathic question that was dropped into me as I was walking through our living room. And it was, why are you not applying the same spirituality, originality, and creativity to the financial raise of SriMu as you did to the formulation of the product? And I was kind of like, yeah, good question. Why am I not? And it was because I was immature, because I hadn't gone into those venture meetings before. I had a lot to learn. I had growing to do. But after I sussed it all out, I realized they're just making it all up. It's all a creative story that they spin and they make up. So why am I letting another person make up my story when I'm creating the story of SriMu? So I went back to what I know, went back to the fire, went back to my spiritual ritual, and I created a guardian offering inviting humanitarians in to support me in this mission of creating community, of truly shifting the world, of honoring our animals and giving some love and honoring to these beings that we've been brutalizing, pretty radically for a while. And also honoring the earth and our children and ourselves. And so I did this crazy thing, and I kind of knew from that exploration that about 3.3 was what I wanted to raise. That would allow me to scale, into about 30 million in volume. And then I established my valuation at 13 million. And lead investor Tom Lawrence, beautiful Tom Lawrence, came in and invested. And he and his wife, Ellie, have been an amazing support to me and champions for me. And they're the ones who live part-time in Memphis. And so we were sitting around talking in Telluride one day, and, we were talking about the challenges with shipping, and suddenly it became clear that we should check Memphis out. So we went to Memphis, and they rolled out the red carpet and took care of me. I've told this story before, but so Crosstown Concourse is where we are going to be. It's going to be SriMu's home, and Staley and Sabine, who are the investors who recreated Crosstown Concourse, have welcomed us and worked with us to create, a deal that is mutually beneficial. And we're just so excited to go in there and to expand, creating the community. So
when is the move?
Well,
scheduled to take
we're
place?
scheduled to have construction done February, but so maybe February, March, we're thinking. But we're already working with teams at FedEx. We've cut our shipping costs by 50%. We're getting 5 times the space for less than the amount of money that I pay here for 750 feet.
California.
But there's many opportunities. But for me, and I've been, sort of reviewing like what is the core mission of SriMu and what is important to us. And the truth of the matter is, it's the community, it's the connection, it's the messaging. So SriMu is a beauty brand. There will be many other things that come up, after the cheese, more food products, more skincare products, supplements, this type of stuff. But we care about the community, and the most exciting thing for me is to go to Memphis and co-create something that creates meaning in people's lives on every level. The people that make it, the people that we co-create it with, our vendors and our suppliers, and also our beloved subscription community. So we're choosing the wholesale outlets very selectively, but for us, it really is about the community.
It reminds me of that video that I shared with you the other day of Alex Honnold and the Honnold Foundation collaborating with Memphis Rocks to put solar on top of that facility to make it
so
solar
cool.
powered, which is pretty cool.
Really
and there's
cool.
a analogous version of that story in the potential of SriMu to be integrated in the Memphis community and to impact that community and to, basically celebrate that community and do some powerful storytelling around it.
Definitely. And, we've already been meeting with some of the kids. They're not really kids. They're just younger than I am at Memphis Rocks and also Tom Shadyac. And we're very keen to collaborate with them. So, to be able to provide a life stream of, experience and to sort of co-create and merge with the community and create something more expansive for everyone is very exciting to me, as is exploring even new sort of structures of what a new business looks like. Like, what is the future of business? And so far, to your point of looking for somebody outside of you that has a title or even experience where you think that they're going to know everything, problems and solutions and opportunities are found in the moment by the people that are there, that are working with the product, that are smart, intelligent, heartfelt, connected, devoted. This is my team, all the way down to, the person who's washing dishes. We had a company lunch at Cafe Gratitude downtown recently, and I was just, almost in tears with gratitude at the way they receive me, the way they love me, the way they work for the company, and the way that they're getting meaning in their life from being connected with this new potential, this new experiment. And so it has this deep meaning, and for me, it really just is all about that connection. If I could snap my fingers now and have it like be in every wholesaler in the U.S. Without that community connection, that would not be my choice.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's good, man. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
It's entering into a really cool new chapter.
Thank you.
Well, let's shift gears and talk about the holidays a little bit before we close this thing down.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because I'm really just in a different place with birth, family, and the holidays. And I guess I want to propose an expansive perspective to maybe ponder if you're one who has intense interactions with your birth family. I certainly do. It's, there's a saying that if you think you're realized or you're spiritual, go spend a weekend with your family, and then you'll find out that it's not true. But I guess one of the things that I think is true is that, we are not necessarily tied to our families, even though, we're brought up like, yes, it would be good to love your family. Yes, it's good to respect those people in your lives. But honestly, I think what is up right now is more frequency. Like, there's a lot of different frequencies that are operating on the planet, and not all of them are resonant with each other. And that's fine. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to go into family situations if it's not an alignment for you. And I would bring more to that you were created for a very specific expression. And if those type of relationships are unable to support you in your evolution or in your joy or in your love and nourishment, if they are patterns that are repeatedly dragging you down or causing constriction, I would say that we have the freedom to choose not to interact with them.
Right. It can be easier said than done, though, right? Because there are occasions and situations where there's expectations around family gatherings. And I think we're in a moment now, as the world has started to reopen, where people are going to be traveling to see members of their family that perhaps they haven't seen in 2 years, 3 years at this point. And there's something really beautiful about that. But I think it's also a situation that can heighten the pressure and the expectations of what that experience may or may not be, that can load it with so much that it could be potentially more explosive, right? If you're not careful. So it's about, yes, to the extent that you can or should opt out to protect yourself. But for those that are sort of going into it nonetheless, saying, well, this could be tricky, but I miss my family and I haven't seen them in a couple of years and I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I also have some trepidation. How do you, help to protect yourself or to flex a healthy boundary and, take advantage of some tools to perhaps ensure maybe a better outcome than historically you've received in these situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was very wordy. I could have said that more concisely.
It's okay.
But go ahead.
No, I gotcha. So if you're welcomed, your secretly welcomed sabbatical from your family, brought on by COVID, has now come to a close, then, I think the first thing that is really helpful to me is understanding that it's frequency. So rather than getting into the dynamics of, where you are in the pecking order of your siblings or any relationship that you have with your parents, if you can just relax your body and just understand that it's just frequency, it's not personal. It's not, you don't have to drop into those old patterns and those old buttons unless you're dragged there like I was a couple weeks ago. So maybe you can avoid it. I think the neutrality of understanding that there's nothing to prove, that there is no better and no worse. There's no one for you to convince to be other than they are. It's simply to wrap yourself in blankets of pink light, because pink light can be more pleasing to others if you have an energy that's abrasive to somebody or you have somebody who is easily explosive. So wrap yourself in, visualize that sort of cocoon around you before you go in. Ignite a state of neutrality within you and understand that there's nothing for you to solve, change, convince, or even, what I want to say, get your day about. Just let it go, relax, and understand that everything is frequency. You may never have a close connected relationship with a family individual like we think we should. It just doesn't land that way. So some of us have very close family relationships with our birth family and our siblings and our parents, and others of us don't. Or, probably more commonly, we have charges with certain individuals within the group. But I guess what I would say is take care of yourself first. One thing that I'm doing a lot, I forgot it today, but I'm carrying with me a picture of myself when I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I carry that with me is so that I can remember to advocate for her first, before anyone, before you, before the kids, before anything, because she is my most important relationship. And if I make sure that she is held and nourished and cared for and seen, then I have more capacity to also be more loving in my relationships, in my community, So I think that's a really, really good thing to do. Also, because most of us that are going back into family situations, it's reducing into a family pecking order or old things that happened or old agreements that were, that were made that you weren't even aware of, So it's these old contracts that are looping that are just over. I mean, we are not, certainly at my age and, likely at, any age, you're not the person who was born into that family line, and you don't have to play that role in that way.
Right. We all sort of snap back or revert into those roles. Like we become, the 12-year-old version of ourselves when we return home. And it's tricky and it's complicated. Like I think most people are probably somewhere in the middle. Like they love their family and they're looking forward to seeing their family, but they're also aware that there are these patterns at play that can be fraught and tend to activate people. And suddenly things become explosive out of the blue. And then you're left wondering like, well, how did that happen? Like, I don't even, and there's drama, et cetera. So how do we, if we're going to venture into those scenarios, like how do we take care of ourselves? I love that idea of carrying around a photo of you as a young person. I think that's a beautiful sentiment and very like visceral.
Very visceral.
Right? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Some of the things that I think have been helpful to me have been that self-care piece. Like you've got to take care of yourself first. You're not going to be able to go into a tricky environment where your buttons are going to get pushed by the people who installed them, which ensures that they're going to get the reaction, right? Like that historical react. Like, how can I have that button pushed and not react the way that I always have historically that leads to, a not so good result? Well, take care of yourself first, whether that's exercise, meditation, some kind of mindfulness practice, good nutrition, sleep, all those kinds of things I think are super important. And then, I try to envision, thinking about boundaries, like I try to envision myself in some kind of, translucent bubble, right? So whatever is coming towards me, if it's not, in service or it is that thing that might trigger me, it bounces off, like just creating a visual field of where I'm imagining it. It's almost like in the service of trying to be non-reactive and neutral in all situations. Can I pretend like I'm watching this unfold on television? Like if it's happening on TV, I'm not going to take it personally. So if there's a screen or when something is happening that is provocative to me and is going to activate that young, emotional, wounded body inside of me, what if it was just a character on television saying those lines? Like I'm not going to have that same reaction. So I try to conjure up some version of that visual cue to help dissipate the intensity of those situations. But I think always reminding yourself to be neutral and to take a breath before reacting so that you can respond more consciously is also super helpful. And understanding that this shit's hard and, you're going to get it wrong more often than you're going to get it right. And to be kind to yourself, back to that piece of like, how do you take care of yourself? You have to, exert or express that kindness towards yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree. It's good.
What? Why are you laughing?
No, it was good. It was good. It was beautiful.
This stuff's hard. And I love my family. Like I'm not, this is not in disparagement of my family at all. Like I like seeing them, but I think like most people, there are these historic patterns that get, calcified and play out time and time again. And then you're like, why did that thing happen again? Because you're doing the same thing that you've always done and they're doing the same thing they've always done. You're playing these roles over and over and over again and getting the same result. And if you want a different result, it's incumbent upon you. The onus is on you to behave differently or to do something different to interrupt that pattern.
Yeah, definitely. And it is. It's super, super challenging. So, the one thing that I wanted to offer, this is like the super secret technique that, I say it all the time, I'm going to say it again, is this warm oil Abhyanga self-massage. So if any of you are feeling anxiety-ridden, unsettled, scattered, stressed, afraid, out of sorts, out of alignment, you can get some organic hot sesame oil. You're going to get the organic sesame oil and heat it up in like a French press. So you put the bottle inside very hot water. And you're going to go in your shower with a bunch of towels. You have to be very careful because it's very slippery. So please be careful when you do this. But what you do is you pour the warm oil over your scalp, and you literally give your entire body a self-massage. Now shift your attention to what you're telling yourself while you're doing it. So this is a great opportunity for you to speak to your body as a living intelligence. Like, thank you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you for everything you do for me. I love you. You're beautiful. I appreciate you. All of these things. So after you've massaged your entire body, and some of the oil will start to absorb in, before you turn the shower on, put shampoo directly in your hair. Okay, so let me remind you, you have oil in your hair. Warm oil has come down your scalp. So before you turn the shower on, you put shampoo right on top of your hair in the oiled hair with no water, and get enough in there that it's kind of distributed. Then at that point, carefully, probably standing on the side of a towel that's going to be wet in the bottom of the shower, turn on the hot water and allow that hot water to open your pores, and the oil goes in your pores. Now, your hair now will have, the lather, and you'll be able to wash it out, and you can wash it a second time, but you'll be able to get the oil out. About 45 minutes after you do this Abhyanga process, your entire nervous system will drop 3 stories. You will feel as if you had a 4-hour massage. And it is just such an invaluable experience. It affects your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. I'm saying sesame oil because it's probably the most universal, but if you're a kapha person, meaning more heavy, you might want to use coconut oil. If you're a pitta person, which is more fiery, you might want to use coconut oil. But most of us have vata imbalance, which is the windy dosha in Ayurveda. And that is, sesame oil is very good for that. So we want to treat the imbalance, which is vata, which means you're forgetting things, you're irritable, your digestion isn't working, you can't sleep, you're traveling, you're erratic, you can't finish one task. These type of sort of symptoms are vata imbalance. And I had a friend of mine who's a very, very sharp person with a lot of creativity, and she's extremely vata. And she was very, very afraid to fly. She had 2 friends die suddenly at age 50, unexplainably. And she was having anxiety from getting on the plane. And she called me and I was like, do this. And she couldn't believe. She was like, that just helped me so much. And so this is something that I do at least once a week. You're witness to the residue in the shower when
I get into the shower and I'm like, why is it so greasy and slippery in the shower?
Yeah. But it really is literally a lifesaver. And I know a lot of us are experiencing a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and a lot of just discomfort from expanding. So that Abhyanga, like if I was leaving the planet and I had to leave like one body care technique, that is the secret. That is an amazing, amazing process. And, a bottle of oil costs, I don't know, $3 or $5. And you don't need anyone to massage you. You can massage yourself. And then it brings you into communion with your own body. Like, what is your body? What is this body vehicle? What is this technology? What are all the functions that the body does for us every day without us asking for it, just automatically? So, the greatest miracle exists within the human body. The ascension is happening inside. It's an inscension. We're not going anywhere. We're activating more of who we are.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Don't be like you.
No,
look
I'm
like,
going to try that.
No,
Actually, I've never done that myself.
Yeah.
I have done coconut. I have like lathered in coconut, like, and tried to like be indulgent in that self-care, but I haven't done that specific technique with that intention.
Mm-hmm. You've lathered in coconut oil?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
I have done that.
That's something I would have missed that question on the dating game.
The final thing that I would offer that's kind of more of a grounded, super practical tool if you're going into these family gatherings, to the extent that you're, kind of entering these situations from a perspective of like, they need to treat me this way, or like, I'm tired of being talked to in this way. In other words, entering with expectations about what you feel you deserve, to disabuse yourself of that and instead focus simply on like how you can be of service. Like, I'm not coming into this situation to look for what I can extract from it, purely instead from a perspective of how I can contribute. And I think when you can inhabit that mindset and then follow that up with simple behaviors that demonstrate that, it will shift the energy of the situation. And to the extent that some of those historical patterns end up playing out nonetheless, it's a little bit of a buffer in how that will be processed by you, because you're looking through a different lens.
Definitely. That's good advice. And of course, there's always the potential that you could do all these things and it could still be a shitstorm. So just be gentle on yourself.
Right.
Just know that's how it goes.
I got the oil, I did the thing, and it's still,
It's, it's literally like the biggest mystery.
And then it just becomes compassion for others and compassion for self in the aftermath.
Definitely. All
right. Well, I think we did it.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel good. Thanks for having me on, Rich Roll.
Always a pleasure to experience the Srimati spiritual Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. I think we went there today.
We definitely went there.
I love you, and I look forward to more of these. In the meantime, check out SriMu.com, code RRP18 for 18% off if you want to explore the beautiful world of not cheese, the devotional offerings of SriMu. You can find Julie at Srimati on Instagram. And where else? Water Tiger.
JuliePiatt.com, Water Tiger is on there. So if you want to go deeper and you want to explore some spiritual techniques that may assist you to embody more of who you are, you can join that beautiful international community. And what else?
I don't know.
I think that's it.
Yeah, for now.
Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Love you, babe.
Peace.
Namaste.